Now we're also going to allow, if the user is logged as a moderator, the facility to delete any thread that they want to. And so we're going to include a hyperlink to the kill.php which we haven't written yet, but this is going to be the thread deleting, thread and post deleting and we're going to say delete thread as the text there. Then we're going to close all of these HTML tags. And finally, we're going to close the table. Finally, at the bottom, we're going to include a little portion of the script which is going to show where the user is within the threads. So if they're viewing the first thread that they could, then that will say 1 to however many of threads they're allowed to view per page, whereas if they're halfway through the available threads, it will show a different figure. Now we want to make the little navigational elements within this part of the so this little is a lesser than sign here, which could look a bit confusing amongst all the HTML, is actually a literal is less than that we're going to use to show the navigational direction left, which is towards an earlier part of the thread listing. And we're going to include something very similar over here. Except this is going to check to see whether the number of rows indicates that there's room to move higher in the thread listing. We should include a space with that less than sign. We're going to include a space before this greater than sign, and we need to, after that, close the hyperlink tag, and then if it's not true, if this condition here is not true, then we're simply going to input empty text. Finally, we're going to include a link to the post.php script, which we haven't written either, and we're going to include a variable on the end of that that's going to be picked up by the script, and that's called new_thread, which is going to indicate that the user wants to post a new thread, which is the message that we're going to display on the page as the hyperlink. Now, the data that I've included so far on the database is all pretty nonsensical. So when we test this page, it may not make a terrible amount of sense. if I change this enter to main, oh, then we haven't logged in, so we'll have to go back to our site entrance and we'll register under a nonsense name. We'll give whatever password and log in. Oh, we went to log in rather than to the entrance. So give a nonsense name here, nonsense password, a supposedly valid email, and then we'll click the register button. Then we proceed to the Great Debate, and as we can see, this is how our threads are listed here within that invisible table. Our user name is stored there, we have a little logout prompt, and our 1 to 6 is listed here. And because we're right at the beginning, and I've only added 6 completely meaningless threads here, that means that there are not more threads that can fit on the page, and therefore neither of those little arrows, the syntax of which may well look very confusing at the end here, has shown up, because this was the part of that ternary that was evaluated, and so nothing was put in to either side of this part of this page. So that's our main page over with, and in our next movie we're going to look at the page on which a user will be able to post a new post on our forum.